This is going to be a test video. This will be in response to MiChal JACKSON, otherwise known as Shelly Jackson, MiChal Powell, and a sundry of other aliases that she has used over the years. And when I began, my debate teacher of high school days, Helen Mestigatus, you always take notes and then compile your debate with that individual. And I remember in high school we went to Fort Hays State University for a debate tournament, and my debate partner was Gail West, one of the few people in high school, my sophomore year, that actually treated the Jacksons with respect. And I really liked that lady. She was a very good influence, so to speak. Now, MiChal, a very just big disgrace to the Hebrew name. Before you were born, April 6, 1963, I had scarlet fever, rheumatic fever. There is no such thing in the medical journals as scarlatina. It was not Dennis Cunningham who hit me in the head, but rather Gregory James Jackson, who hit me in the head with a baseball bat at the old house. And he got a real good ass whooping from Dad, because I was knocked out for like 4 hours. And then, a few months after that, we had this large outbuilding, and Dad kept his dog Toby in there, and Greg was horse playing with me, fighting me, whatever adjective you wish to use. He pushed me, and then he grabbed one of Dad's hand size and virtually severed my left thumb, which I still have the scar. I have all of my medical files from childhood, including, but not limited to, the psychological workup done in Hays, Kansas, after Greg sodomized me when I was about 7, maybe 8 years old. I have recorded every phone call with Elsie Marie Baker Jackson from the summer of 2009 up until her death in April of 2014. The last phone call, April the 6th, 2014, Elsie Marie Baker Jackson informed me that she caught Lance molesting Shelly. And, well, soon after that, Lance had to go to the Army. Well, anyway. Then Gregory James Jackson, December the 4th, 1952, he was caught either before, during, or maybe after burglarizing a retired judge house in Barton County, in the county, not the city, and he stole the man's coin collection. How Gregory got caught and arrested, I do not know those details, but I'm working on getting his criminal history from Barton County, Detroit, Michigan, Lincoln, Nebraska, and the FBI. And I remember, 12, maybe 13 years old, Mom and Dad and I and Shelly, MiChal, would go to the Barton County Jail And Dad was like 5'3", 5'4", maybe. And he's deaf, partially. And he had a very hard time listening to Greg through a 6-inch by 9-inch bulletproof glass, and the mouthpiece was a plate of steel with holes drilled in it. And we'll fast forward to August 22nd, 2011. Our brother, Lancelot Jameson Jackson, committed suicide in Shasta County, California, by laying down in front of a train. I have the coroner's report as well as the Shasta County Sheriff's report and other incident reports where Lancelot Jameson Jackson was under investigation for sex crimes. Now, Gregory, going back to him, he went in front of Judge Roletter and was told that he either join the military or face anywhere from 5 to 20 years in the state penitentiary. Well, he chose the United States Navy. I am working on getting his United States Navy military records. Then Shelley, in a video on YouTube, which this is an answer to, claims Mom was raped and Shelley is a rape baby. That is the furthest from the truth. Then she claims, and she don't say what year, but she claims I stole a battery out of her car, which supposedly she uses the sentence, stranded on the road. Well, if the battery was stolen out of the vehicle, then you're not on the road. I have not been in Rush County since 1970s. The last time I was there was April 28, 2014, on Mother's funeral. By telling people in the Creekside Village Mobile Home Park, 1707 East Blanchard, you violated not only state laws, felonies, but you also violated numerous felony and state misdemeanor charges by false allegations of child molestation. I was evicted in October 2012, approximately 7 days after you left in your Ford motorhome. If I was such the dastardly devil as you speak of, then why didn't you confront me then? Why didn't you, as a young girl, contact law enforcement? In your video, you have laid claim to about 30 men, some who are upstanding citizens of Rush County. A lot of these men that you name, Ralph Lawrence Jackson, either worked with them, worked for them, or they worked for him. And I find it quite odd that your memory is so sharp, because you never went to Alexander Grade School. Alexander Grade School only housed 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. You was born April the 6th, 1963, which unfortunately was Easter Sunday. The Brown versus Board of Education, which desegregated schools, which ended busing, segregated busing, okay, did not take effect, and that was 1959 summer term of the Supreme Court of the United States. And so, by that standard, kindergarten was established. So the unified school district system did not come into play in Kansas until 1969. And you went to the Rush Center School, which housed kindergarten and first grade. And if you had missed school like you claim, the town marshal, Frank O'Barney, would have been looking all over town for you in that 67 Ford custom he drove with the Andy Griffith red light in the center of the roof. By the way, it was an apple green with a black vinyl roof, MiChal JACKSON. You make a lot of allegations, and this Roy Crone, I have no clue who he is. I have no clue, let alone I do not know how to spell the name Gary Ditches. And I never sent anybody to Rush County, Rush Center, or La Crosse. So your statements are not factual. As we say in law, facts not in evidence, and it makes for a conclusion and assumption. Now, you spoke of 8 hours of the film crew. Well, we met at the diner at 6th and Main in South Hutchinson. And that was March or April of 2012. And because I was still at Creekside Village, I had a 1979 Ford Fairmont, which was classified as a classic. I only spent 45 minutes with him, not 8 hours. Now, you state Dad broke his back and burnt his lungs in the shipyards of Oregon. Well, that is, again, false allegation. Number one, there is no shipyard in Oregon. However, Lance was in the Navy at Portsmouth, Washington. Dad lived, and Mom lived in Portland, Oregon from 1950, late 1950, until the end of 1953. Gregory James Jackson, December the 4th, 1952, was born in Portland, Oregon. Dad never worked in a shipyard. Dad was a fry cook for a black man in a chicken shack in between Portland, Medford, and Eugene. Dad, according to the United States Archives of World War II, his draft registration card, as well as his induction into the United States Army, was in 1942. He was assigned to the 25th Infantry Division, which that division was responsible for the liberation and occupation of Dachau, Auschwitz, and if you're going to pronounce the names correctly, MiChal, at least learn how to pronounce them. You rant and rave about me being on SSI. This is true. I have a very good reason for the secrecy of my Social Security number. Under federal law, Title 5, United States Code, Section 552A, subparagraph C, Charlie, 1, 2, 3, and 7, any agency, state, federal, or private, is not entitled to a person's Social Security number unless they have required the use of a Social Security number prior to January 1st, 1975. So, your ranting and raving again proves, in psychological terms, you're delusional! That's off my chest. So, you, MiChal JACKSON, are also on SSI, and you get Medicaid. You also get food stamps. This has been authenticated through my sources and databases that you are just in the same financial predicament as I, except you're not homeless. Because of your actions in September 2012 at Creekside Village, Mobile Home Park, 1707 East Blanchard, you effectively made me homeless. And because Trent Messner is a member of the Reno County Landlord Association, I have been blackballed. In June of 2013, the Hutchinson News did an article on me, and of course Mother was quite pissed because I said Dad was a tinker, which happens to be true. If you look up the original definition of tinker from the Old English of the 1560s, a tinker is someone who is a master at metals, which Dad was. And you reference in your video an organization called Legal Shield. Legal Shield has been determined by the Kansas Attorney General of 1992 opinion that prepaid legal services in the state of Kansas is illegal under the Kansas Consumer Protection Act. You also claim that I bought your address and things of that nature and put it on Facebook. That is ludicrous, because your text messages from my cell phone prove differently. I have almost 28 meg zip file, compressed file, of my Facebook. Once a month, every month, since 2007, when they started the archive. I've been on Facebook since 2005. And I believe it was 2007 or 2008 when they started allowing you to download and archive, that kind of thing. Same thing with my old Yahoo account. And I have text messages on my phone, which I have downloaded, because I got 3 cell phones. 2 of them are Droids X2s, and I'm in the process of extracting those text messages. And when you got to New Mexico, you actually texted me your address, because, no, wait a minute, it was after that, it was after Mom died. And because the day we buried Mom, April the 28th, 2014, I went to the courthouse to look at the deed, and it's a warranty deed. And the lady at the Register of Deeds office, there's a notation in the computer. So she goes to the big bound books and found a lien on the property from the Kansas Commerce Commission, as it was called back then, in 2006, when Mom went to the Department of Aging in Dodge City and had a new roof put on it. And then 6 months later, she tells me, which I, by the way, have all these recorded telephone conversations under Kansas law, even though Kansas passed what is referred to as the Criminal Electronics Surveillance Act, Kansas is still a one-person state, meaning I can videotape or audio tape anybody at my leisure, so long as I do not use it for criminal activities. And you texted me the address. By the way, I'm going to print all of these out because I've got a few surprises for you and Gregory. Anyway, you gave me Mom's Blackstone law books in September 2015 when I was living with my ex-mother-in-law. And the same thing, the same day, you give me a box of other books. You gave me Dad's Torah scrolls and a bunch of cassette tapes that had nothing on them. Now, here comes the most difficult part of this video. I've never told anybody, including my psychologist. By the way, you got his name wrong, girl. Yes, you are correct. When Lance left home, I inherited his paper route. Actually, 3. Lance delivered the Hayes Daily News, Great Bend Tribune, and The Grit, which came out every Wednesday. You are correct. But after Greg sodomized me, God, this is hard. After Greg sodomized me, and Greg left home. By the way, Gregory and Ralphetta left home in 1967, because Jackie Ralphetta, Jacqueline Jackson, went to Fort Hays State University, where she supposedly met a Cherokee Indian named Howard Johnson from the great state of Indiana. And she barely lasted a semester. And so I'm out collecting my paper route, and I always kept the neighbor, his name was Billy Martin, last, because his house was literally across the driveway from ours. And I would knock on his door. He answered the door in a bathrobe, literally drugged me in, and commenced to orally and anally sodomize me. And to this day, I still shit blood because of what Gregory and Billy Martin did to me. In reference to the pen and pencil collection, I actually stole them. I really don't like admitting that, but I did. And most of them I did in high school, because most of the kids in high school didn't have padlocks on their lockers. And I had this weird thing concerning pens and pens. I still do it today, and I'm in my 60s. And as far as adult magazines, I never had any, because Mom constantly searched my room. That's how she found Charlie, my tarantula spider. I got in my sophomore year from Charlie Bankston, the biology, physical science, and chemistry teacher. He lived right behind the La Crosse Baptist Church we went to as children. And she came. Dad had to move the washer and dryer upstairs because of Mom's heart problems. Well, as a child, I had no clue she had all these medical problems. Insulin-dependent diabetic, a pernicious anemia where she had to have vitamin B12 shots every week at the health department in La Crosse. She had cardiac arrhythmia. Oh yeah, she's allergic to wild game, including the domestic rabbits that Dad and I, not you, MiChal, Dad and I. It started out as a 4-H project with Big Buck and Grandma, my male and female white rabbits. Let's make that perfectly clear. Now, you make the allegations of Karst, K-A-R-S-T. I remember that name because they had a construction company, and it was the Karst Construction Company that dug the basement for the house you live in. They lived about 9 miles northwest of Larned, outside of a little town called Roselle. None of the children, none of the Karst boys ever raped or molested you. And the county courthouse in the 1870s, 1880s did not sit on that land. God! Dad, in 1959, bought the land from an old man, Arthur Scranton. Look at the land patent, MiChal. Dad bought the house in 1961 or 1962 from Bill Renz. It sat where the propane tanks are now. It took 2.5, 3 years, maybe 4 years, to pick up that house and move it to its present location, approximately 150 yards. And Mom and Dad, their story is a guy named Joe Turner with the FHA out of Hayes kept hanging up the paperwork for FHA loan. The house was successfully moved from the Renz gas station to where it sits now. We moved, you was born in 1963. We moved in April of 1967. Lance almost went to jail because he was throwing rocks at passing vehicles. And the land that Oliveris owns was the garden, 250 feet by 300 feet. In reference to my legal battles, since 1976, since I've been doing law work, I've lost 3 cases on the district court level. Upon appeal to the Kansas Court of Appeals and to the Kansas State Supreme Court, I won. I have 3 published, one published opinion, 1983, and 2 unpublished opinions, December the 23rd, 2015. And you are correct. There is nothing between us. Never has, never will. Because I have a low IQ of 82. That makes me mental retarded. However, the same tests from the U.S. Army, from my psychologist, which I will not say his name, because he asked me, when I first started going to him, from 1992 to 1998, you and Ralphetta saw the same man. And he asked me numerous times if I ever had sex with you. I emphatically answered no. You cannot prove your allegations. You and Ralphetta are two of the most psychotic, psychologically demented females I have ever met. I have a great respect for women. If you remember, in front of Hank and Leslie Trout's house, I was 11 years old when Scott Corsair was chasing you, trying to rape you. I clotheslined him and grabbed you and took you home. Dad was beside himself. However, he was proud. His son, his youngest son, stood up for you. And these are the thanks that you give me? Really? Shelley, MiChal, under Kansas law, if you set bear traps and someone is injured, you are facing numerous state felonies, particularly from the game warden, because bear traps are only allowed in what they call furrier zones. Those zones are specifically set out by the Kansas Wildlife and Parks Commission. If you have bear traps on that property and somebody is injured or someone's animal gets injured, you can face civil and criminal liability. I have been doing the law since 1976. If you remember the day we buried Mother, I went to the courthouse and found on the, not the computer, but their big bound books, a lien. If I hadn't researched that, you'd have a lien on that property to this day. And then I looked through my phone. September 2015, I had gotten a letter from the Kansas Estate Recovery Division. There's no website, no nothing, saying because I took care of the funeral arrangements, Mother owed the state back pay because she was on Medicaid. Well, that's a bullshit lie. Anyway, I got the email. I sent them in all capital letters. If they ever attempted me again, I would sue their skanky ass. Well, I haven't heard from them. That's when you, MiChal JACKSON, gave me your address in New Mexico. And remember, you was headed back in your motorhome. And you talking about karma? I love this shit. You claimed a big rock come rolling down the mountain and went right through your motorhome. Well, there's a used to be a TV show, My Name's Earl. Karma's a bitch, ain't it, MiChal? And it's only going to get worse. See, I don't do illegal things. I use the law. I use the system against the system. You sit there and claim that you got molested, you got raped, that Hava got raped. Well, see, there's something called learned behavior. And on the day of the funeral, Hava wouldn't even speak to me because of your mouth running like a duck's ass on diarrhea. But I have a lot of good memories too. For example, me and Dad are out in the garden weeding. This is after Dad kicked Gregory and Lancelot out of the garden for throwing rotten tomatoes. Even though they were rotten, it was the behavior. And all of a sudden, we hear quack, quack, quack. You're like 5, 6 years old. You thought it was so damn funny to let all the geese and ducks out. And Dad was going to whoop your ass for letting, because we had 5 or 6 geese and 3 or 4 ducks. He loved those eggs because they were big. And he watched these geese and these ducks literally go down the cornfield and the peanuts. And girl, it was hilarious because he picked you up. He looked you in the eye with tears. He said, Shelly, I love you. Thank you. And your job, until Dad got rid of the livestock, your job, believe it or not, was to let those ducks out. When you got home from kindergarten, first grade, your job, your chore, your only chore was to let the ducks out so they could go weed the garden. Because the chickens, oh my God, they just tear everything up. It's things like that I remember. I remember going to some of your school activities. And I'm your brother. I felt so proud of you. I watched you memorize these lines. I can't remember her name. I think it was Mrs. Parmalee in Alexander. Actually, you were correct. I think it was Mrs. Parmalee that gave you piano lessons. Now, I don't know where it came from, but in 2014, it was still in the basement, a little air-powered organ. Oh, my word, you love that. You love that little organ. And the upright piano? You're no concert pianist, but girl, you can knock out some wicked tunes. And here, you want to turn on me. I have done nothing to you. And I look at the photos on my Ancestry website, plus the photos I've got in the album. You're a spitting image of Mother. But what's worse, you have the same demented attitude, the same meanness. You think I use the word nigger? Girl, you ought to listen to some of the conversations when she talked about you, Hava, and Frankie, Hava's daddy. He was an ice cream truck driver. I don't know how, but you made it to Wichita. You lived with Jackie, Ralphetta. Next thing, Mom knows you're hooked up with this black guy. Now, I know Frankie. I bonded him out of jail 3 times. Once for his drugs, possession. The other 2 is because the girlfriend he had at the time in 2004 and 2005 put his ass in jail for domestic violence at the hotel. I bonded him out. And I used one of my friends, Uncle Ross Greenfeather, who I was a bounty hunter for that man. Okay? Felons can't be bounty hunters, MiChal. Okay? To this day, I got a license from the Kansas Attorney General, issued 1994, the same month I got my house. So go figure. Alright? You paraded around Roscenter and La Crosse that Hava was Indian. You talking about, I stole your battery, which I couldn't do. I wasn't even in Kansas. I was in service. TDY, girl, TDY. I've got my military file. I got my P201 file, which in the Army, P-201 is a military personnel file. If you was there 1 hour, 1 year, 10 years, it shows your duty station, TDY, temporary duty. Now, all Mom could do from 2000. No, wait a minute. I had neck surgery, the implant in my neck, 2014. Yeah, 2014 up until her death. No, 2010. Because I left Mom's house in 2009, came to Hutchinson when you started all your shit, and anyway, she called Hava a nigger, called Frankie a nigger. I read the text, the message I put to Hava, September 2015. Never called her nigger. I did use the nigger word, but I'm entitled to do that, see? United States Supreme Court ruled in Snyder versus Phelps of 2012, whether it's hate speech or faggot speech, it's protected. Disorderly conduct is protected. Whether you act in a rude and insolent manner don't matter. Now, you keep railing on these false, bogus, fictitious allegations. As Mom would always say, why you use a big old $500 word with a 10-cent definition like rhetoric or vitriol or decisiveness. Shucky darn. You know what I mean, Barney? Shelley, MiChal. I can see Gregory coming through you. Not one of my legal documents has, the only name in my legal documents is Ralph Lawrence Jackson, Elsie Marie Beaker Jackson. As far as my legal documents, you guys don't exist. So, me running for the United States House of Representatives, I'm going to do it. Y'all done pissed me off. And I got some sweet things I'm going to do. You say I have nothing to offer? I got a lot to offer. You sit there and make these claims. Guess what? Your words have consequences. Your behavior has consequences. I do things legally, okay? I do not do anything illegal. What I do is I use the law. I've been studying since 1976, girl. Shook it down. Know what I mean, Barney? Like I said, I got a low IQ. And the reason why is because number sequences, certain mathematics I can't do. Shuck it darn, girl, I can't even do fractions. Lowest common denominator, what the hell is that? Now, you give me metric, base 10, or you give me decimals. Girl, I can work up a storm. Okay? You know, you talk about the Ku Klux Klan and all of that. Wow. They probably are active in Rush County still to this day. Just more deep-seated, underground kind of thing. And it amazes me that you have this hatred. Hell, when you went to New Mexico, you sent me text messages. You couldn't stand Christianity. You're a Wicca or Wiccan or whatever that nonsense is. And now I look on your YouTube channel. Oh my God. Trump this, Trump that. Wow. What turned you around? I don't know. March the 30th, 2000. My daughter was born. Virginia Marie Jackson. Jenny Mae for short. Well, the woman I got pregnant, like you, hated me with a passion. But yes, she had voluntary sex with me. And I a Looney Tune. She's actually worse than you and Ralphetta. Wow. By the way, Ralphetta, JAKLEEN Jackson, 1989, May, was arrested for indecent liberties and aggravated sodomy. Kansas Supreme Court, June 1991, overturned her case. And you know, in the opinion, what they said, they got to vacate the conviction because the complaint indictment information was written wrong. She should have been charged with aggravated incest. Double jeopardy attached. Well, I'm living on the corner, Lauren English, not even knowing she lived next door to me. I spent $190 to get her piece of crap, her Dodge Aspen, because it was a stick shift. I replaced the transmission, the bell housing, clutch assembly. Had to go clear to Wellington just to get a transmission, bell housing. Because she had a slant 6 in that car. Running little heifer. God, that was a good running car. And, wow, I lost my train of thought. That happens a lot with me. Old age. Dad always said when I was a youngin', getting old ain't for sissies. You know, shit, MiChal, I was working on my truck a couple weeks ago when it was up in the 60s. I know I was doing something wrong, just couldn't figure it out. Daddy always said, study it some more, study it some more. And then, literally, MiChal, I heard his voice telling me, hey, idiot, you're doing it the wrong way. So this voice, I hear, not in my head, but through my ears. Wow. So I did it the way the voice told me. Voila, dude! You know? And, what I was trying to explain to you had nothing to do with the KKK, or nothing to do with that. I'm going to explain Kansas real property law. Dad died in 1985. So from 1982 to 1985, Mom sold the south half to Roger Oliveras. Now, in order for Roger Oliveras' deed to be legal, Mom, Elsie Marie Jackson, and Roger Oliveras has to go to the Rush County Commissioner, get on the agenda, present to them to redraw the plat map. This is where it gets dicey. Now, because Roger Oliveras is the buyer and Mom is the seller, Mom has to pay for a land survey, and then they do all those little numbers and lots, you know, and all that good stuff, you know, the legal description, okay? If you look at the plat map of 1982, 1983, like I did, it was never partitioned, I believe is the legal term. So, by law, you could take Oliveras into court and win to, you'd have all 5 acres. By the way, there's no alley, okay? An alley is set by the county commissioners because it's an easement, it's a right-of-way. And now, guess what, MiChal? Both the redrawing of the plat map and setting a alley, right-of-way easement, has to be approved by the legislature, okay? I'll tell you what, talk to Tom or Caleb Boone in Hayes. They'll tell you the same thing. They're real estate lawyers, okay, MiChal? Now, the problem you have is you're going it about the wrong way. You cannot complain to the sheriff. That bald-headed deputy in your video, cops are here, is correct. It's civil. Okay? So you're going to have to do some legwork. All right? If Rush County commissioners in the 1980s, when Mom sold the land to Oliveras, did not partition the parcel, it's still, by law, one parcel. Okay? So, wow. Well, I guess I'll end it here because I've been on here almost an hour. But I'll update you, MiChal, because you have no clue who I am. You have no clue what I am capable of doing in a court of law. Okay? I called Rush County Sheriff on December 16, 2017 at 7:12. He watched your video. He called me back precisely 2 hours later at 9:12 on December 16, 2017. And he admits there's no criminal activity except the booby traps. However, he actually laughed. It was the undersheriff, Lyle Hammerschmidt, or whatever that name is, okay? And he laughed. Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. Prussia, Russia, and Catherine the Great. Well, Catherine the Great was a queen of a country called Prussia. That is P-R-U-S-S-I-A. And they did not have surnames when Catherine the Great ruled. So how can Margaret Herman Beeker, that's two R's, so it's pronounced Herman, okay, be with Catherine the Great 100 years before her birth? If I am not mistaken, Margaret Beeker, otherwise known as Maggie, was born like in the 1860s, 1880s, where Catherine the Great was the Queen of Prussia in the 16 and 1700s. Russia, R-U-S-S-I-A, was not even Russia, okay? It was USSR until Leo Tolstoy, Lenin, and Stalin, three of your heroes, since you're a socialist, took over the country. And you really, really need to study history. And, wow. The things that you marvel at, rather I. You see, I've got 4 degrees in psychology. One's a Bachelor of Science. I have degrees in abnormal criminal behavior, forensic criminal psychology, and then just general psychology. I actually have a law degree. Choose not to, I don't like the limelight. I don't like the spotlight. But I feel the desire, the need to represent Kansas, because elderly people have to pay taxes on their Social Security. They have to file a 1099 every year. That's just wrong. And your heroes, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, Pat Roberts, Jerry Moran, voted for that. And I have a lot to offer, MiChal. You just don't see it. Okay? So, as we say, shalom, peace and blessing unto you and yours.